Hey everyone, it's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I personally Copic color florals like these, and I thought that it would be a really great video to do right before spring in case you wanted to get some Copic color practice in on florals. So I'm going to be using the Avriel hand-drawn floral stamp set today, and I was really excited to receive this stamp set because it's perfect for coloring in with colored pencils and Copic markers. So I'm going to create sort of a border, and to color it I'm going to use my hex chart. Now this is Sandy Alnock's hex chart and I will link it in the description of the video. I'm going to be using these purples and I cannot Copic color without this chart. I'm still fairly new at Copic coloring. I've really focused a lot on florals, but I love this chart. So I'm going to be using this throughout the video. So the first thing I want to do is stamp my first flower so that I can color it in. And I am going to stamp it in Memento ink because it is Copic safe, meaning that the marker won't bleed or it won't make the ink bleed. There are other ink pads that will also work with Copics. Any archival ink will work with Copic markers as well as watercolors, but I just happen to like Memento. It's not a very wet ink, which I actually prefer because I don't get a lot of bleeding or smudging, so I really prefer Memento. So after I wipe off my stamp with a baby wipe, I'm going to refer back to my hex chart. And this is set up really great because you can see which colors will blend well together. So I want this particular color, this flower, to be purple. So I'm going to use these three here, V17, V15, and V12. V04 is a little bright for what I want my highlight color to be, and so I just skipped over it. And I don't need the highlight color to blend in particularly well or perfectly because I want there to be a very clear, distinct sort of contrast to the shadows and the highlight. So I make sure I take all the caps off of my Copic markers where the brush nib is because that is what I use to color. And I'm going to start with my darkest color. I'm going to use that at the sort of base of the flower and at the very tip of the petal as well. And this is because I want my highlight in the middle almost to look like the sun is hitting it and it's giving a really reflective shine back. And how I'm coloring is just going in upstrokes, starting a little heavier and sort of picking up the marker or the brush nib as I go. And this will create that sort of like sharp point at the end that you see. And I'm going to continue this with the mid color. And the only difference is I'm going to make sure that I bring that sharp pointed line up farther than the darker color. And this helps it blend in together, but it also gives that look of fading into that highlight. Now you could definitely do a highlight any way you'd like. You don't have to do it in the middle like this. The only reason why I turn the paper around to do it is because I want the highlight in the middle, and for me anyway, it's easier to make a sharp, sort of that sharp line to look like a texture when I'm going up rather than down. I tend to get heavier on a downstroke than I do on an upstroke, kind of like hand lettering or something. So I sort of just color in that middle part. You could do upstrokes to make it still look a little more textured, but I'm pretty sure that the mid color and the darkest color give that texture with those sharp lines going through. Now I'm going to speed this up in a minute just because it's very repetitive, but I do the same exact thing to all of the other petals. One thing that I'm really looking out for is that the highlight on all the petals matches up. So I don't want my highlight on the middle petal to be in the center and then my highlight on the petal just to the left of that to be way up high or way down low. I definitely want it to match and look cohesive because that's the whole illusion. that the sun or the light is hitting it. So I just want to make sure that I keep a consistent space for my highlights. You'll also notice that I follow the shape of the petal. So instead of just going straight up or straight down, if the petal curves, I try to go in the shape of the petal. And again, that just gives it a little bit more illusion that the sun is hitting it or the light is hitting it in a certain way. You'll see on this petal, the very edge of it is very, very tiny. And so I don't worry too much about the upstrokes or downstrokes. Actually, what I do is I take my darkest color and just create sort of a shadow completely around the middle and then color in the middle with my lightest color. And that just makes sure that you can see that it is the outside of the petal and it gives that differentiation. I'm now going to create a sort of bouquet out of these leaves and another flower that is in the set. And so I'm going to be using masking for that. So I'm just going to again use Memento ink this particular flower up onto and stamp it onto this paper. And then I'm going to mask it onto a piece of full sticky Post-it. And this Post-it is not just sticky at the very top, it is sticky throughout the entire square. So it's really great for masking. I also have repositionable or removable sticker paper, but it's nice when you have small images like this to just use a Post-it. I love this large rectangle block from Catherine Pooler to be able to do things like this. So I set up these leaves in the place that I like them, and instead of needing to do a block for each of them and making sure that I get it the way that I want it, I just stick it on that long rectangle block and I get it perfectly where I wanted it every time. So I'm referring back to my hex chart, and there are 3 colors that I use pretty consistently across the board for leaves. It is Y67, YG17, and YG03, and I just really like these colors for leaves. So I'm going in the same type of pattern that I did for the purple flower. However, I am not giving as sharp of lines because leaves tend to not have that much texture to them. They seem to be a little more, or at least in my mind or in my imagination of what this leaf looks like, it's a little more flat and smooth. So I do still use the 3 colors, but I do it in a way where they blend a little bit better together. It's almost unnoticeable. And I think that that's what makes it really realistic and neat. You don't always notice the particular highlights or shadows in a flower or in a leaf or a tree or something like that, but when you're coloring it, of course, you do. So that's what that looks like, and I wasn't really satisfied with the shadow, so I went back in with my darkest color and just made sure that I sort of enunciated that shadow or pronounced that shadow around where the flower would have been casting a shadow on the leaf. And after that, I was really happy with it, and I really liked the way that it turned out. And I just wanted to say while I have a second here that this is all trial and error. I have met so many people who are so incredible at coloring, and they color these beautifully realistic images and they're still working on their craft. I don't think anybody has ever said, you know, this is it, I'm perfect and I don't have anything else to work on, especially in crafting. But it's all trial and error. And I just wanted to make this video to sort of show how I have found that it works for me, because I've tried lots of different techniques, and this I sort of picked up from a few different techniques and put it together. And I think that that's what's so great about learning things like this. You can just sort of find your own way. So I thought I would just add to the things that maybe you have seen in the past, and maybe this would help you a little bit along the way. So for this flower, I definitely wanted it to stand out. I wanted the colors to be brighter and bolder rather than muted and dark like the purple flower. So I went back to my hex chart and I decided to use R35, R32, and R11. And if you haven't already noticed, I will tell you that there is a bit of a trend here. I like to use 3 colors. I try to use 3 colors or 3 shades every time that I am coloring or blending. I like to use a shadow or a darkest shade, a mid shade, and then the lightest or my highlighting shade. So after referring back to my hex chart and deciding on some bolder and then some lighter colors for these extra little flowers that I have, I fussy cut them out, and I have an A2 sized cardstock here that's going to be my card front, and then I just sort of mess around and set it up along the border here of how I might like it to look. I snap a picture and then I adhere it all with my Tombow Mono liquid glue, and that's just because once I put it on there I get a little bit more time to move it around rather than doing double-sided tape. As soon as I saw all of these colors come together, I thought of the Hello Sunshine stamp set and that sentiment from Altenew, Hello Sunshine, you make my world brighter, and I knew that I just had to use it. I'm scoring every 1/4 inch here on my card front, and I love scoring card fronts. I just think that it adds so much interest without adding too much to the card. You know me, if you know my cards, I'm a very simple card maker. I like white space. So I'm just adding some sequins here in purples and golds just to give a little bit of a shine, and I'm going to adhere this with double-sided tape to a top folding A2 size base. And then it will be completely done. I love how the card turned out. I love the coloring, especially that it was so simple. And I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if you have picked up a technique that you might use in the future, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.